Hello, and welcome to Suitcase Coder, the podcast. My name is Laura, and I'm the host of this awesome podcast where I talk about my journey from joining a bootcamp to becoming a freelance web developer. My goal in life has always been to travel the world, and I think I've finally found the career that will allow me to do so. So if you're listening and you're wanting a similar path, whether that's joining a bootcamp or accelerating your life as a freelancer, then I hope by sharing my journey, I will help you kickstart yours. Okay, let's get started on today's episode. When I signed up for a bootcamp almost 2 years ago, there were a lot of options out there. And just now in those last 2 years, I can almost imagine that the amount of bootcamps that are available has doubled easily. There's so many options out there, whether it's like 3 months or 6 month or 1 year bootcamps. In person, online, whatever you want, it's there. So I'm going to share a few of the questions that I asked all the different bootcamps before deciding to sign up for a specific one. I asked a lot of questions. I made sure that I was going to get my money's worth because it's quite a commitment. It's quite a time and money commitment, and you just want to make sure that you're choosing the bootcamp that's going to be the best fit for you. So the questions that I had saved that I actually asked when finding out about the different bootcamps, I saved those and then I went through them, and I also, knowing what I know now, I narrowed down the different kinds of questions that you should be asking your bootcamp before signing up, and I'm just going to kind of go through them pretty quickly. The 5 different areas that you should be asking about is, surprise, surprise, money. I've talked about money, I think, in almost every episode. You guys must think I'm obsessed with money, which I don't think I am, but I think I've realized the importance of knowing about money. You want to ask about the curriculum, so like what you will be learning. You're going to ask about preparation, and that goes both pre-bootcamp preparation as well as post-bootcamp career preparation. And then all like the details like location, time, etc. And then also like you want to make sure to ask the what ifs, because life always gets in the way. Life happens, There are things that you can't control, and there are things that your bootcamp can't control. And so you just want to make sure that in case any of that happens, you want to be prepared. All right. Here we go again. Money. You want to make sure you ask the total cost of your bootcamp. Obviously, you see a price online, but you have to think about a lot more than that. Are you going to need a brand new computer? Parking pass if the bootcamp is on location? Any new softwares added? Like payment for extra like resume help at the end? So what is your total final cost of the bootcamp going to be? Most of these boot camps, you will have an interview scheduled with them, when in reality, this is a time for you to be interviewing the boot camp. So if they don't have the answer to one of your questions, make sure they get back to you with it. And if they really don't know, then that kind of tells you something about the boot camp or like the responsiveness of the boot camp. Another huge thing is refund. What does your refund look like? And that goes for so many, this kind of plays into like the what ifs. Figure out what kind of refund policy they have. And I think that could potentially save you a whole ton. Hopefully you don't need a refund. Hopefully you do the course, everything works out perfectly. You graduate, you make a lot more money than you ever thought you could, and woohoo. That's like an ideal situation. Another question to ask is like money back guarantee. So I know certain boot camps say you don't pay now, it's like free, quote unquote, but then you pay a portion of your salary when you get a job. And that, I'll leave that up to you. But to me, it just kind of seems a bit sketchy, because they could lose, but most likely they're going to end up winning. And then you also don't want to get a brand new job after not having work or working part-time for 6 months and then have to give a portion of your new salary to the school. Granted, it was free at the beginning, but I don't know, figure it out for yourself, see what works. What if you don't get a job within 6 months? Do they offer any kind of refund there? So look into that. And then if they do, look at all the little details, because my bootcamp offered that and I didn't get the money back guarantee because the requirements for you to be able to get that money back was doable, but it was just a little bit even harder and more like time commitment than the course itself. That's all I'm going to talk about money. It's pretty straightforward. You know your finances best, and you know what questions you should be asking here. So make sure you get that straightened out before choosing a bootcamp. The second thing I want to talk about is curriculum. And this is a huge one just because you have a choice and you can narrow it down. And there's no wrong or right language. It's just a matter of what you want to learn and what you want to get out of the bootcamp. But definitely like figure out the curriculum. Is it going to be front end, back end, full stack. And it's hard because obviously you're joining a bootcamp because you don't really know anything yet, but do a little bit of research beforehand, figure out what the curriculum looks like. Another huge thing, and I talked about this last time, is what's your learning style? And then ask what's the format of the curriculum. So some curriculum is like video based, some of it is in class where it's just like going to a classroom with a teacher and a whiteboard and maybe some slides. Some of it is auditory, some of it purely text based with a couple of exercises. Are you going to be working on teams? Are you going to be working individually? So all of these questions are important to know. And of course, you have to know your learning style and what works best for you. Are you going to have quizzes or interviews or something where you can't move along the curriculum unless you finish certain assignments or quizzes or tests? All of this kind of goes to play with what you are looking for. Know your end goal. So let's say you want to work in New York and they're big on JavaScript and React. Find yourself a bootcamp that teaches you JavaScript and React, and that will help you kind of narrow down the bootcamp. The third thing that you should be asking is what are the prereqs for the course, as well as what kind of preparation is offered after the course before getting a job. So before the course, is it required to know HTML and CSS? If it is, then you know that that delays your start date by possibly a month or however long it takes you to learn it. Do you need to have a new computer? Do you need to have certain things installed? Do you need to have gone to X amount of meetings, or do you need some kind of career experience in coding before you join? All of these are things that could delay or make you decide whether this bootcamp is right for you or not. And I know it's hard because the reason you're joining a bootcamp is to learn, but sometimes it does help to have a little bit of a base so that everyone's starting off at the same page. So definitely find out like what the pre-requirements are. But another huge thing is like what kind of preparation is offered after the course. So let's say everything went dandy, you graduated on time, your projects are bomb, and now you're ready to be applying to jobs. What are they going to offer you? What are they going to do to help you out? Are they going to have resume building courses? Are they going to have somebody who will help you practice with interviews? Are they going to offer different coding challenges that you can keep up with? What kind of career prep is offered by the bootcamp? One thing that I found super helpful from my bootcamp was the fact that after I graduated, I was paired with a mentor for almost 6 months after graduation. And they helped me with everything from continuing my coding experience. So making sure I was keeping up to date with everything that I had learned. They helped me with my LinkedIn profile, with my resume, cover letters, which are so annoying to write, but they help you out with all this. What are they going to do to help you after you graduate? So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is just your basic stuff. So any detail. Okay, on to the last set of questions that you should be asking the coding bootcamps when you're trying to figure out which one to attend. So this fifth one is the what ifs. And this is a reminder, if you didn't know already, that life happens and that things get in the way and there are things that you can't control. Okay, so the first one, and I think this is huge, probably out of personal experience because it happened to me, is that I fell behind. I traveled halfway through my course. My sister got married, it got hard, and so I just naturally fell behind about a month, and then it was really hard to catch up, and there was a lot of other details that got lost when that happened. So one thing to ask is what happens if you fall behind as far as your timing? What happens with the payments? What happens with the curriculum? Are you able to move along? Figure that out. What happens if you fall behind? Also, if you're in a class setting or in a cohort, what happens if you're one student that's super behind, but everyone else is ahead? How do you deal with that? Another one, a more positive note, is what happens if you get ahead on the courses? So let's say the course is lasting 6 months. You finish it in 3 because you're really badass and you just got everything going and you're awesome and you're done. You graduate within 3 months. Do you still get all the resources? Do you still have to pay the course for the length of its entirety? Do you still get career help? All of these things are good to ask because you might get ahead, but just figure out what happens. What happens if your computer breaks? What happens if you have to move? Plan for finances, timing, curriculum access, and what you might lose in case of any of these what ifs. Wow, this was a super quick recording, and I think I kind of covered it all. I wanted to narrow it down because there were so many questions, and if you didn't tell already, it was just me listing a ton of questions to ask the person on the other end of the phone when you talk to them about joining a coding bootcamp. So yeah, so my action item for you is definitely to write all the questions that you may have so that you can ask the same questions to every single bootcamp and then compare those answers from the different boot camps and see which one works best for you. And then another little action item that I want to add to this week is find somebody online or in person who has gone through the same program that you want to join, because a lot of times you're going to get a lot more details and just firsthand experience from somebody who went through the course than from somebody who's trying to sell you the program. If you want to ask me about the bootcamp that I joined, go ahead and comment or reach out to me. You can find me pretty much anywhere, and I'll be happy to answer that. I hope that these list of questions helps you narrow down the different boot camps. I know there's a ton out there. If you want resources on what are some top boot camps out there, I'll write out a list of the ones that I interviewed before deciding on a specific one. And this week's weekly coding challenge is to reverse a string. Again, if you want the answers, come back to my website, which is www.suitcasecoder.com, where I will be posting the answers to every week's coding challenge. Thanks for listening. I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the show notes or in the comments below what you want to hear more of, what you like and what you dislike, because my goal is to help you guys. Awesome. Have an awesome week, and I will see ya next time. Bye bye.